It is 6:47 on a Tuesday morning in Columbus, Ohio. A father of three, named David, pulls his pickup into a Shell station on Route 40. Coffee still sitting in the cup holder from 10 minutes ago, when life still felt completely normal. He swipes his debit card at the pump. Declined. He frowns, checks the screen, tries again. Declined. He pulls out his credit card, the backup, the one he keeps for emergencies. Declined. He walks inside, asks the attendant to run it manually. The attendant shrugs. The terminal is showing the same error across every card from every customer who has walked through that door in the last 40 minutes. David pulls out his phone to call his bank. The call drops. The signal bar spins and produces nothing. He stands in a fluorescent-lit gas station with a quarter tank of fuel, 2 kids at home, a wife who works 40 minutes away, and a furnace that shut off last night because the propane company requires a card payment on delivery. He is not in a movie. There is no dramatic music. The sun is still coming up, and he has absolutely no idea that this morning, before most of America finished its first cup of coffee, a coordinated infrastructure attack froze ACH processing across 3 of the 5 largest banking networks in the United States. 61 million accounts. Locked. Not drained. Not stolen. Just frozen. Inaccessible, as if someone quietly turned off the tap to every financial artery in the country all at once. This is where people make the fatal mistake. David does what most Americans would do. He assumes it is temporary. He assumes someone, somewhere, is fixing it. He drives home on that quarter tank to wait out. And this is exactly the moment that separates the people who weather a banking freeze from the people who are destroyed by it. Not because of the freeze itself, but because of the first 4 hours of decisions made inside it. Here is the hard truth nobody wants to say out loud. Your money did not disappear. Your access to your money disappeared. And in a modern American economy, those two things are functionally identical. You cannot buy groceries with a number on a screen if the screen won't let you in. You cannot fill your tank. You cannot pay for your child's prescription that runs out today. You cannot run the small business that feeds your family if you cannot pay your supplier or your staff. The money exists. It is simply unreachable, and an unreachable resource is no resource at all. The system doesn't collapse loudly. It stars you quietly. Here's what nobody tells you. The banking infrastructure of the United States was not built to withstand a simultaneous multi-network freeze. It was built for efficiency, not resilience. The entire architecture assumes continuous uptime because continuous uptime has always been profitable. Redundancy costs money. Preparedness costs margin. And so the system that holds the financial lives of 330 million people was quietly optimized for speed and stripped of the buffers that would protect you when speed stops. You were never told this. You were handed a debit card, shown a mobile app, and told your money was safe. It is safe. It is also, under the right conditions, completely inaccessible, and the right conditions are closer to reality than any bank wants to admit. Let me tell you what happened in a small town in upstate New York during a regional banking outage in 2019. A woman named Karen had $300 sitting in her checking account. The outage lasted 72 hours. She had no cash. She had a diabetic child. The pharmacy could not process any transactions. A neighbor, a retired postal worker named Glenn who had grown up during harder times, had $40 in cash, a shelf of traded goods, and a relationship built over years of small kindnesses. Glenn covered the prescription. Karen's digital $300 sat completely useless for 3 days while a handshake and a can of coffee solved the problem. Glenn didn't know a crisis was coming. He just never stopped living like one might. This is the first thing you need to understand about what becomes currency when money stops working. Trust is a store of value. The neighbor who has helped you, the local farmer who knows your name, the small shop owner who has seen your face every Saturday. These are not just social relationships. They are financial infrastructure. They are the parallel economy that activates exactly when the official one goes dark. You cannot build that network in an emergency. You have to build it before. And most Americans have not built it at all because the digital economy made human reciprocity feel optional. The mistake feels logical. When everything is fine, keeping cash feels paranoid. Storing extra food feels excessive. Learning to barter feels like cosplay. The banking system works every single day, so preparation for the day, it doesn't feel statistically irrational, right up until it is the only rational thing you wish you had done. So let's talk about what actually becomes currency in a banking freeze, because this is where the practical survival decisions live. The first is physical cash, not thousands of dollars. That creates its own risk, but enough small bills to cover 72 hours of essential expenses: food, fuel, critical medications. 20s, 10s, and 5 specifically, because in a cash economy during a crisis, nobody has change. A single $100 bill in a cash-only transaction during a system outage is often worthless simply because the other person cannot make change. Small denominations matter. Keep them somewhere accessible, not locked behind a combination you will forget under stress. The second currency is tradable goods. This does not mean gold coins or exotic items. It means the everyday consumables that everyone needs and that disappear from shelves within hours of any disruption. Batteries, over-the-counter medications, water purification tablets, sealed food staples, propane canisters, basic hygiene products. These items hold value because need is constant and supply chains are fragile. A person who does not have cash but has something you need is someone you can work with. A person who has nothing tradable is isolated. The third currency, and this is the one that surprises people, is skill. During a banking freeze, especially one extending past 72 hours, the ability to do something useful with your hands becomes directly exchangeable for goods and services. Mechanical repair, medical knowledge, food preservation, radio communication, basic construction. Every practical skill you carry in your head is a currency that cannot be frozen, hacked, confiscated, or declined at the terminal. Let's do a quick recap of where we are. A banking freeze removes your access to digital money. The first 4 hours of decisions define your outcome. Trust, cash, tradable goods, and practical skills are the 4 parallel currencies that replace the frozen one. And most Americans currently hold exactly none of them in reserve. Now let's talk about how this gets worse over time, because this is where the real danger lives and where most preparedness content stops too early. By hour 24 of a serious banking freeze, the secondary failures begin. Gas stations that took cash in the first 12 hours have now run out because every cash-holding customer in the county stopped there first. Grocery stores have implemented purchase limits or closed because their own supply deliveries depend on credit processing that is also frozen. Pharmacies are operating triage protocols, and something very human starts to happen. People start making decisions based on what they see their neighbors doing rather than what is actually rational. Panic is contagious before information is. Someone runs, and then everyone runs, and suddenly the mild inconvenience has a second layer of human behavior wrapped around it that is far more dangerous than the original technical failure. This is where people die, not from the banking freeze itself, from a cascade, from the diabetic who couldn't get insulin, from the family that ran out of heating fuel and had no cash and no stored alternative, from the person who drove 40 miles on an empty tank to a pharmacy that was closed and had to walk back. The freeze is the match. The lack of preparation is the kindling that was always sitting there. Here's what nobody tells you about the recovery phase either. When systems come back online, they do not restore everyone equally or simultaneously. Large corporate accounts and institutional transactions are prioritized. Small personal accounts come back last. And during that window, which in serious incidents can be 2 to 5 days, you will still be living in a barter and cash economy even as the person down the street with a business account has full access restored. The freeze ends unevenly. Plan for the tail, not just the event. Safety warning. During any period of economic disruption, be extremely cautious about who knows what you have. Do not broadcast the fact that you hold cash or substantial tradable goods. Human desperation changes behavior in ways that are statistically predictable and personally dangerous. Share resources with trusted neighbors. Keep your preparedness profile quiet beyond your immediate trusted circle. Generosity is a virtue and a survival strategy, but must be directed with discernment. Now imagine two versions of David at the end of that Tuesday in Columbus. The first David, the one who waited, is sitting in a cold house by nightfall with a truck that will not start tomorrow morning, children who have eaten the last of what was in the pantry, and a phone that shows a balance he cannot touch. He is not a bad person. He is not unintelligent. He simply trusted a system that never told him it had a failure mode. The second David, the prepared one, filled a small cash envelope 6 months ago after watching a video just like this one. He has 3 days of food on the shelf. He has 2 5-gallon propane canisters that his neighbor, a former mechanic who David helped move last spring, showed him how to connect to a backup heater. He bought his daughter's asthma refill 2 weeks early, as he always does now. By 8 a.m. on Tuesday, he has assessed the situation, communicated with his immediate network, confirmed he can cover the next 72 hours without touching a single digital dollar, and gone back inside to make breakfast for his kids. His morning is inconvenient. Theirs is a crisis. The gap between those two outcomes is not wealth. It is not luck. It is not intelligence. It is preparation. Specifically, the decision made weeks or months before the event to build a small but real layer of independence from a system that was always more fragile than it appeared. The system does not warn you before it fails. It does not send a courtesy email. It does not give you a grace period. It simply stops, quietly, suddenly, and without apology, and the only question that matters is what you built before it did. Subscribe before you need this.